11:30 on the dot. And we can go ahead and get started. Cecilia, are you ready?
Am I sharing the screen with the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. The green background around it went away. So it caused a moment of anxiety.
I think we're ready. We can see your PowerPoint.
Wonderful.
All right, let's get started. All right, hello everyone. My name is Andrea Schambacher and welcome to the DaSy webinar on developing 508 compliant reports. I will be your moderator for today's session and your facilitator. And our focus today is on providing an overview of how to develop 508 compliant reports and how to identify and utilize those resources that are out there for you to make this work easier. I am very excited to introduce my colleague, Cecilia Leher, and before she does an excellent introduction, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items for you. We're very aware that we're all on technology, and we know that engaging and presenting in this new remote work world is a very different experience. So in order to make sure that you have all the information you need, we have the Zoom link here, the meeting ID, and the phone number. In case you get disconnected, you can take a second and take a quick picture of that phone number and the password. And we also wanted to double check that everybody can see and hear adequately. So please feel free to put a note in the chat or put your hand up if you're having any technological issues at this second. It looks like we're all good. And also we'd like to make sure, thank you, Ginger, thank you for confirming. We would like to make sure that everybody does remain muted during the presentation to reduce any background noise. And please put your questions in that chat box. I will be moderating and checking the chat box and replying to the chat as questions come in. And we will also have a time at the end of this presentation for you to ask questions, and Cecilia will answer them and the team here will answer them. And we will also record all questions so that anything that goes unanswered today, we can respond to and follow up with, not only immediately after this webinar, but also in a part 2 that we will be conducting in January, on January 19th. So please make sure you ask your questions. If you can't tell already, we are very excited to be here with you. And we want to know a little bit more about you. But before I launch this poll, Cecilia, do you just want to take a second to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Cecilia Leher, and I am with the Johns Hopkins Center for Technology and Education. And I am the Early Childhood Program Quality Specialist. And one of my roles within the Center for Technology and Education is to assist with the creation of documents and online learning tools, as well as our IFSP, preschool IEP, and online referral tools. So we have had a lot of conversations at the center these past few months, ensuring that all of our resources are up to code and up to the standards for 508 compliance. And hopefully we'll be able to share with you some of what we have learned.
Excellent, thank you. And now we'd like to know a little bit about everybody here who's attending the webinar. So we are going to, Renee is gonna launch a couple of poll questions. So let's go, question number 1. How comfortable are you with the topic of 508 compliance? Excellent, we've got lots of responses coming in. Great. So far, 79, 80. Excellent, 82 participants. And when we look at the results here, we've got about 9 of you, or 11%, who are very comfortable. About half of us are somewhat comfortable. And then 39% are not comfortable. And that is very understandable because there is a lot of information out there about 508 compliance. So hopefully we are going to clear a lot of this discomfort up for you today. Let's go with question number 2.
I'm coming.
What type of operating system do you use? This is actually really important information for Cecilia to have before she starts talking, because there are differences between Mac systems and Windows that we'll get on the surface of today. We won't be able to go too deeply, but it looks like we have most of, oh my goodness, 94% of the people in this webinar today are using Windows, and a very small percentage of you, 6%, are using a Mac operating system. So Mac users, do not fear. We will keep you in mind, and we will make sure to address some of the Mac differences that you might see when we talk about accessibility and the resources and tools that are embedded within each of these operating systems. All right, question number 3. What is your current role? Excellent. We've got lots of people here with different roles and responsibilities. We've got Part C coordinators, Part B coordinators, Part C data managers, 14%. Let's see here, TA providers from the state, 10%, other state staff, 47%, and DaSy TA providers at about 6%. This is fantastic. We are really excited that we have such a varied group of professionals with us today to talk about these topics, because regardless of our role, we all have to do these reports and they all have to be accessible. So thank you for sharing your role. And then our last question is, what reports are you most concerned about when you think about 508 compliance? Okay, great. We all know the Assistive and the SPP APR, very, very important, but it's very clear from your responses that you're producing many reports and that all of these reports are important to you and that they all are accessible. So thank you so much for engaging in those poll questions and giving us an understanding of who you are and what your concerns are about 508 compliance. And thank you, Renee, for your support with the poll. Cecilia, on to you.
So I am making some assumptions today as we are starting off. And today we'll be using the Windows Word version that I had access to, which is Office 365 version 2019. However, I am making the assumption that most of you are at least using 2016, and at the very least, nothing before 2010. You will need that for some of the features that we'll be talking about today, and that you have some competencies in some of the Word features and sort of the mid-level Word proficiencies that you would need to have. If you don't, that's okay. I can't go into detail about how to do some of the things, but I have included a link that will take you to a full Microsoft Word tutorial that if you need to brush up on any of the items that we discussed today, hopefully that will be helpful. Now, accessibility can get, it can make people feel a little uncomfortable. It is something that, as I saw in the poll results, some of you feel really comfortable with, but most of you are sort of at the stage where you're somewhat familiar with it, and others of you are not familiar with it at all. And so today we want to introduce the topic, and I've asked Andrea to keep an eye on the chat, so please let me know. I want to make sure that this is information that is relevant to you. So please let her know if there's something that you want me to go deeper into, and then either we'll address that in the questions that she said, or she'll stop me and make sure that we really present the information that you need. Because what I want to make sure that you get out of today is a very solid background in accessibility, and specifically what you need to do, and some takeaways that you can apply as soon as you leave today in creating accessible documents using Microsoft Word. Now, accessibility has been determined by the United Nations to be a basic human right. It is a civil rights issue when you think about it. Special education, and passionate about ensuring that the families and the children that we serve have equal opportunities and access to the highest quality of education. Likewise, we want to make sure that as we are communicating with our stakeholders in our communities and our colleagues, that we don't introduce barriers. We know, especially in the world today, how much we are relying on the technology for connection, for information, and we are, even at the end of this COVID time period, we continue to rely on technology. And so we want to make sure that everything that we create and share electronically has been designed with accessibility in mind from the very beginning. It is a lot easier to introduce things into the documents as we create them than to go back and remediate anything that is not accessible. And so the Department of Education has made a commitment to ensure that anyone who is receiving grant funds or is associated directly with state and federal government is adhering to the laws and the guidance around accessibility. And specifically, I'm sure you've heard of 508 compliance. And what's important to know is that Section 508, much like Part C and Part B, which we're all familiar with that jargon, it's Part C and Part B of IDEA. Well, Section 508 is Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and it was added in 1998. And it includes guidance and standards for all consumer technology, not just websites and documents, but also emails and computer software, apps. And in the latest iteration of the 508, of Section 508, which was amended in 2017, they included language that said that in order to be in compliance with Section 508, you also had to include guidelines, which are called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and we will talk more about that. Essentially, those guidelines include a wide range of recommendations, and it's spearheaded by the organization that is responsible for the standards of HTML coding and putting websites up. But they have also, since electronic and digital communication is often shared via the web, their recommendations were folded into the 508 standards. And so in order to be 508 compliant, you also must comply with the guidelines set forth by the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And as you can see, there's two versions of them.
Cecilia?
Yes?
Please forgive me for interrupting. I am getting a few chats that people are having some static. And I did want to just double check quickly that participants can hear and to see if there is any sound issue that we need to troubleshoot quickly. Okay, I'm getting responses that people can hear, and some people are getting a little bit of static, but it's minimal.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for confirming, everyone. I apologize for the interruption.
But if that changes and you do have trouble hearing me, please let us know. I am using a wireless Bluetooth headset, but I do have a corded one just in case. So, you know, sometimes that helps. So if you do have sound issues, let us know.
Yeah, it does seem like in the chat there are quite a few that are saying there is some static they can still hear. So if you think that changing your headset might be the answer, that might be helpful.
Talk amongst yourselves. So while I do that, can you share in the chat for us if you are familiar with, if you've heard about the 508 and if you have heard about WCAG?
We have Ashley. She's very familiar with both, which is excellent. Sandy has heard of both. Greg, yes. We do have a couple of people where WCAG is new to them, so that's great. Yep, Patty has heard about 508. Amber says WCAG, WCAG is new. So this is great. We have some people that have heard of both and are familiar with both, and others that have not heard, especially of WCAG. So I know the principles are really what Cecilia are going to be reviewing in depth today to really frame how we think about 508 and compliance for accessibility. And thank you, everyone. Our new remote work world always requires us to have flexibility and patience with one another. So thank you again for flagging the static, and hopefully the plugin will address that issue. And Seth has heard of both, but is hoping to get more clearer rules outside of Microsoft Suite.
Okay, how's this? For those of you who were having issues hearing me, is this any better?
Perfect, much better, much clearer, fast.
Wonderful. I'm very glad that you guys mentioned. Thank you, because we really want to make sure that this is helpful for you. So, as you know, laws and standards are always being rewritten. And so the version 2.1 doesn't really replace 2.0, it expands upon it. And really what I want you to take away, if this is something that is really new to you, all that you need to know for today is that these guidelines are based on 4 foundational principles. You will hear in the accessibility world as you're looking into and maybe reading online, you may see that there are some websites that say one thing and then they're contradicted by something else. And really the only way that you can kind of make sense of it all is to really understand the principles and the foundations behind why these standards are in place, and that can help you kind of understand if the information that you're seeing online is reliable, because you'll understand the principle behind what they're saying. And then also this success criteria, 508 compliance, or the law, the section 508 requires that we meet levels AA, at least level AA of the success criteria. So I don't want you to worry too much about that if this is the first time that you're hearing about it. In January, we'll have a follow-up where we're going to go a little more in depth into what all of these laws and standards are are really all about. But we will ensure that that the information that you're getting today, that the actionable steps are in alignment with these criteria. So what is it that you are required to do? Again, to produce 508 compliant documents, and this link will take, when you get the copy of this PowerPoint, this link will take you to an overview of 508 compliance. And then you are required to any document that you create to ensure that any accessibility errors and warnings that can be addressed are cleared. All accessibility errors must be addressed. Some warnings must be addressed. And don't worry about this too much right now. We will get into how you get a list of what those errors and warnings are. But specifically, we're going to ensure that you have enough information today to be able to produce the SEP reports and the APR and SPP reports that are due very soon. And there are some resources that are already out there. We will be sharing some of those with you today. Specifically, there is a template in Word and in PDF for the reports that that you need to produce. For the option, the use of the templates is optional, but they are, if you do use those templates, they are already formatted for you so that they are already 508 compliant. Now, you may, in addition to those reports, send in some attachments to further indicate additional data or additional information on your data. That is also optional. But if you do, those attachments do need to be made 508 compliant. There's also checklists and guides, which OSEP is recommending that we use, that really will help you understand what is expected and whether your document is in line with the expectations. But essentially, as I said, it is important to understand sort of the why of these checklists. And essentially, in order for documents to be accessible, the content must be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. And as I said, in the section 2 in January, we will go into a lot deeper detail. But for today, what's important is to understand that when we are addressing accessibility, we must create documents that are perceivable to everyone, which means that they can view, navigate, see it. If we have any media that's embedded, that they are able to have alternatives so that if they have vision or hearing problems, they can still access the information. Operable refers to how we navigate around the document. Can you use your tab, or must you use a mouse? And if you have people with motor issues, they may not be able to use a mouse, or they may have different kinds of keyboards. So we need to structure the document in such a way that there aren't any barriers to a variety of ways that people might access and move through the document. It must also be understandable, and that means just the way that you've created it. Does it kind of flow and make sense? It's simple to understand. And then robust is for purposes of today. Robust, all of these obviously have a lot of details surrounding them, but for the purposes of today, robust is going to be looking at how the document can integrate into other tools. So how it can be shared with PDF, in a variety of ways, PDFs, screen readers, obviously via the web, on our phones, on our tablets. And so the reason for that is so that people, no matter what they are accessing our information on, regardless of whether it is because it is their preference. So, some of you may already be using some of these built-in accessibility features that just have become ubiquitous now with a lot of the technology that we use. If you have ever, done hands-free texting with, voice to text, that is an accessibility feature. Or if you've used the built-in text reader in your PC, that is something that is accessible to everyone, not just people who have special tools for assistive technology. But more specifically, we want to ensure that those who do have a disability and need to use screen readers or magnifiers or special keyboards or special a different type of mouse, that they are not impeded because of the way that we've created the document. So, what is it that you actually have to do? Well, those principles in action when you're looking at a document, we're really going to concentrate on the layout of that document, and specifically using styles and headings and making sure that we use tables and format tables the right way, that the colors that we use colors and images, and again, format those correctly, that our navigation, meaning again headings, and table of contents, if we have one in our document, is formatted correctly. And in order to ensure compatibility with assistive technology and other tools, that the document itself, what's called metadata, so it's the information about the document, is formatted correctly, and that we've used an accessibility checker to resolve all the issues. So let's get into the document layout and formatting. Visually, you can just at a glance tell the way that this document is formatted. And we want to make sure that the metadata, that the information about this document that Word has in its programming, sort of coded in, baked in, allows for assistive technology tools to create an accessible version of what we are seeing with our eyes, so that you see that there's a title, there's a section header, there's a list. We want to make sure that anyone using assistive technology tools can perceive the information in the same way. And so that means that we're going to make sure that when we create documents, that we have that we tell Word to make sure that there's a difference between our title and our heading and our regular text. And so headings is what tells the Word document how to interpret what type of content we have. This is a title, this is a heading, this is a list, this is normal text. I'm sorry, headings are, if you can think about like an outline. So you've got if you've created an outline, you've got the title, you've got each section has a header, and then you've got the normal text that you wouldn't put into your outline. So I apologize if that is a little confusing. Styles is what tells your Word to treat some text as a header, so a section header versus this that is just regular text. So what we want to make sure that you don't do is that you don't just highlight information and then just use your formatting to make it larger or smaller. I will show you the proper way to do that. And essentially, when you have your Word document open and you're in the Home tab, you will see that there is a section that says Styles. And anywhere that you are in your document, when you highlight the section that you're in, if you're using styles, you'll automatically be able to see what style is being used. And you can see that these styles are presets within Word. And depending on which one you're hovering over, you can kind of tell. It shows you immediately the change that happens within your document. When you have a title that you want to be specific, a header that you want to make your title, you can modify that title and change the font You can change the spacing. You can center it, or the alignment. You can also, as you can see, change, have more than just this dialog table. You can go into the font specifically to get at more detailed information. You can set borders, frame. So it is quite robust. It really is, instead of just creating text and then using this formatting to kind of make it larger or smaller, you really want to assign a specific header to it, this code essentially. And one of the recommendations is that you create a template for yourself. So as you are creating your documents and you create a title that you think, hey, this is really the way that I want titles to be done across my organization, or even just your own personal style. When you modify that title, you can select to apply it only in this document, this type of formatting, or you can select that new documents based on this normal template can also have that access to that style. So if I were to create a different, I could create maybe title for Assistive reports and apply that to be ready for any other documents that I want. So now I've got this specific type of title so that I can have that available now. See, it's title specific for my Assistive reports. I now have that available in other documents as well. There is more information on how to use styles. This is my own little version of how I was doing it and applying styles, and this is an additional video. So you've got 2 more resources that you can look at for more information on how to apply styles. But basically, the takeaway is that anytime that you are creating your documents, you want to make sure that all throughout that you have identified and essentially assigned a style to all of the pieces of your document. And you can see if you've done that correctly by going to the View and Navigation pane. It's going to open up the navigation, and you should be able to see all of the different items of your document that are that have been set up as headings. This is sort of your outline view. So that's how you can know that you have accurately selected all of the headings that are needed for your document. Now, for hyperlinks within the documents, you want to make sure that you are formatting those correctly as well. Essentially, screen readers, they can create a list of all of the hyperlinks that you have in your document, and you want to make sure that they are contextual and that they make sense. I mean, if you can think about the screen reader creating a list of just the hyperlinks and all it says is here, here, and here, yeah, that doesn't really tell them much. So the way to create the hyperlink is to actually ensure that you select enough of the text that it makes sense to someone who is just reading what that hyperlink is leading to. So this, as you can see, is clear that if I click on this, it's going to take me to instructions for creating accessible hyperlinks. If I click here, it's going to take me to information about accessible contrast or color coding. The other thing that you want to do when creating hyperlinks, which let Andrea know in the chat if you're not at all familiar with how to do that, but essentially you select the information that you want to hyperlink, you right click, and you get to the link. And in that panel, you enter in the web address of where you want the person to be taken to once they click on it. At the very top, here is the text that is visible so you're not seeing like the www, you're seeing the reader is seeing the actual words, the context of what that link is to. And then you want to add a screen tip that describes for people, the instructions. Let's say this, I'm instructions for ensuring accessibility. If that is, what I'm taking you to. Notice that in the screen tip here, I just basically, you don't have to overthink this. I just basically, entered in the same content as what I'm linking to. The other piece of how you structure your document, and I won't spend too much time on this, is ensuring that the lists, numbered lists, bulleted lists, are created by using the list styles in Word. Sometimes you may be tempted, to just sort of add a star, or those a hyphen right before something, item 1, and a lot of the later versions of Word, it tries to recognize that that's what you're doing, and puts it in for you. It essentially it creates that style for you. But just in case it does not, you need to make sure that if you are creating either a bulleted list or a numbered list, that you are using these two styles to create the list with. And then something that's actually more of a problem that I see, I think everybody kind of uses, because again, Word sort of gives you that warning that you should be using. It does it for you whenever it recognizes that you're trying to do a list. But what I do see a lot is extra spaces that people use in order to align things. Either, I want to make sure this, it comes over just a bit, so I'm going to put it right there. And then, maybe I want to make sure that my cells in my tables are a little wider, so I'm going to create an extra space there. When the screen reader is reading it, they actually will, say like space, and it essentially creates a lot of extra information in, again, the metadata, which is the programming of the tool, the programming behind, all of the things that you're visually seeing. So instead of using these extra spaces or creating a column, a 2-column or 3-column information by creating a table and then dividing it into 3 areas, what you want to do is to insert, to go to the layout, and you want to insert a continuous break, and then you want to format it as 2 or 3 columns. As you can see, this document is properly formatted. It has a section break, and then this area is set up as columns, and then we have a section break at the end of that that goes back to a full page. And so I know that particularly for the columns, I think that people are kind of used to doing a table and just sort of separating it, but you really want to make sure that you get into the habit of not using tables when what you're really trying to do is just format how the document is presenting, like how it looks on the page. If you're using a table to actually share information, awesome. But if you're using a table to just sort of make stuff pretty, then you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of your section breaks and your columns and frame, borders and all of that. And so again, in the PowerPoint, there is a link to a video that can give you more information, especially on this section and page break, as I know that may not be something that you've been used to doing. For data tables specifically, we touched a little bit about not using tables when all you want to do is just kind of make content pretty. But when you want to create, when you want to ensure that the readability or that the information that you're presenting is understandable for your reader, that is really the time to use a properly formatted table. And to do that, you want to make sure that you have a header row. This is what is going to let screen readers know that, hey, this is the information, this is what the information in this table is about. So the header row must be designated by going into the table properties. You right click on your table, go to table properties, and you designate the row, you designate the row as your header row. And all of those, and you do that by going to row and then repeat as header row at the top of each page. Now, as you can see with this example here, this table doesn't go through more than one page, but essentially if it did, this header row would be visible again, when the page is split, which helps not just for people with screen readers, but just everyone to ensure that the data in the table is understandable. The other thing that we want to make sure we do is to create simple table structures, and the difference, or how you know that you have a simple table, is that you do not have cells that are merged or split like this. You want to have your data be represented in a very simple table. So no combining, particularly of this header row. See how this header row here, I've set it so that I've separated within the same header row. Part of it is state, part of it is local. Well, this is not a, ooh, hold on. I want to make sure that when I share, you'll also be able to share the audio. This is my incorrect, yeah. In a minute, you'll be able to see, if you, from the review ribbon, there is a read aloud.
To meet outcomes. High priority. System. Level. Steps to implement activities. Resources needed. State. Local. Activity 1. X.
See how it didn't read system level and then state and local. It treated this here at the very top as the header row, and then this sort of was just as an orphan, and then it goes down into the rest of the rows. So you want to make sure that instead of doing that, that you find a way to either repeat the information so that you have just the accurate labeling of what that column is about. And this other piece is not necessary, but it's just something that I also do appreciate when I'm looking through tables. If you have just sort of things that are checked off, when the screen reader is reading it, it's just saying activity and then X, X. And so if you close your eyes and are just listening, what does the X go to? It would be helpful if you actually spell out what the actual data in that table as well.
Celia,
yes.
We do have a quick question from Sandy asking if there is an issue with the cells that are empty in the table, in the example.
Yes. So you and thank you, Sandy. I shouldn't have. You're right. I should not have left the cells empty in order to tell you that this is correctly formatted. And I appreciate that feedback, and I'll actually make sure that I go back and fill this in. I was trying to represent here in my example just the simple versus the more complex tables, but you're right. You do not want to have cells that are empty. You want to make sure that you're saying, the information that goes. If there's no data, then state that so that you don't have empty cells. It does confuse the screen reader. Thank you. I really appreciate that comment, Sandy. You also want to make sure that there's alt text for the table, and the way that you do that is by right-clicking to get to the table properties, and you want to make sure that you are concise but descriptive. So you don't want to start, whether you're doing alt text for images, tables, or anytime that you're doing alt text, you don't start by saying like this image, this table. You just go ahead and describe what you're seeing. And you don't, you aren't redundant, so you don't have to write paragraphs to essentially recreate the information that you presented in a table, but you do want, you also don't want to be too general. So you want to make sure that you're describing the data that is, what is the data that you're summarizing in the table. Now, if you have complex tables, which are, which include a lot of data, then you want to make sure that within the document itself that you are providing a summary of the findings, and then the table is clearly delineated as sort of your complete data source. Think about what it would sound like if you had 20 rows and 15 columns. In that case, you may want to break up your data table so that it is more comprehensible, because the screen reader is going to read those 20 rows and those 15 columns, and it's going to get confusing for the person who's just listening. So you want to make sure that within the text of your if you have such a wide table, such a lot of information in your table, that you are within the text of your document, you're sort of summarizing the findings and being and considering whether you can break up the information within the tables. Now, is there before I keep going on, are there any issues, questions? Ooh, I just noticed the time. Let me not do that. Go ahead and put your issues or questions in the chat. For colors and images, notice that again, even though it is for accessibility issues, if the contrast is properly set, it helps everyone. This is harder to read, not just for people with issues. It's hard to read for everybody. And so the recommendation is to go for a contrast ratio of at least 4.5 to 1. And there are tools that are linked here that that you can actually that will take you through and show you how to do that. The color contrast analyzer, these two are web-based. The Paciello color contrast analyzer is one that you can actually download, and you'll be able to see actually I'm gonna go fast forward here. One of the things that I want to caution you against, I know that Word and Excel and any Microsoft product has all these fancy things, including templates that we can use, and they come with colors. You can't always rely on the colors that Microsoft is suggesting to you as being accessible. And so this is an example of and one of the presets that I've chosen here, and I'm using the color contrast tool to select the background color and the foreground color of my text. And you can see that it is letting me know that it is a fail. And so even though it is one of the presets, if once you actually look at the examine it deeply, it fails. And so one of the things that's important to know is that not only do you have to worry about the colors, but also the size of the text. Sometimes you may get a color combination of text versus foreground versus background that passes at if you're using large text. So in a header it's fine, but if you're using smaller text, then it no longer passes. And so you with this color contrast analyzer, it will tell you if it fails or passes at the regular text size and at the larger text size. And usually that's delineated. Larger text is anything 18 points and above. So one of the suggestions, there's this resource that I found online, this organization, what they've done for themselves, and what I recommend that you learn from and do for yourself, is to kind of look at your organization's palette and create some guidelines for you, so that you don't have to spend 18 hours looking for the right colors. Go ahead and think about what are the colors that you typically use, and then just create for yourself a little table of these are the colors that I want to use on a white background, and they're accessible, and these are some neutrals on colors, so that way you have that kind of already for you. When working with colors regarding images, and specifically I used graphs and charts, just because we're talking about images that you might use in a report, which are likely to be graphs or charts, but essentially this information is important to know about all images. Is that particularly for graphs and charts, you do not want to use color as your only means of conveying information. So on this left-hand side, we're seeing that the type of system is only represented by a specific color. So when I look at it in grayscale, or if there were someone who had vision issues, all of that is gone. You now can't really tell, like, you have to really strain to see what the difference is between each of the pieces of data that you're trying to represent. And so what you want to make sure that you do is that instead of using a legend like this, that you actually put the legend and any of your data sort of along with the information, the either line chart or graph that you're presenting, and see how there's solid line, and dotted lines, and there are different types of dotted lines, so that even though we lose color, it's still very understandable what you're trying to portray. The other thing, of course, is that anytime that you're using an image, whether it is a graph or a picture, that you're also using alt text. And again, you're doing right click to open up your image properties, and then writing in your alt text, which for graphs and charts, you would be saying this line chart. So instead of saying this image or this chart, you would describe what type of chart you're using, and the X and Y axes, and then what it is that you're trying to convey. It's also important that when you are using, whether it is a table or an image like this, that you are using a title for that information, and for graphs and charts that you're using the labels for your Y and X axes. And then there's a small video that shows you actually how to insert the document, the images within the documents, and how to access the alt text to be able to, the properties to be able to enter in your alt text, which we don't have time to do today, but to show you the video, but at least I do want to talk to you about how you insert your images. You want to make sure that you are inserting it in line with the text. So that means that essentially, if you put your cursor here, see how it moves along with the cursor? It is part of your sentence, in essence. It is tempting to move it to like to use this setting so that you can just kind of move it around and place it exactly wherever you want, and then just add extra spaces and sort of place it where it needs to go. But then that means that the screen reader doesn't really know what to do with it. So you do want to, again, place it in line, and then use, again, the formatting as you would for your text. So if you want to move it over, you can either center it, or if you don't want to go quite that far, you can use your margins to move it. You can ensure that there's enough space by using your spacing before and after. So those are some of the things that you want to remember in addition, in working with images, in addition to the color issues and the alt. And again, there is more information that essentially what we just talked about. There is a little video that doesn't have sound, so don't think that there's something wrong when you play the PowerPoint, but it just is a little demonstration of how to do that in your document. The next piece that we are kind of building on, so these aren't separate items. The navigation specifically is, again, how the document is formatted so that people can move around in your document and can understand where you are. And we already kind of looked at this navigation pane, but let's take a look at it again. When your document is properly formatted, if you go to your view and your navigation pane, it opens up this list of headings that allows you to see the information, the metadata information that is going to be shared with a screen reader. So not only is this, if your document does not have a table of contents, this kind of functions as a table of contents, because it allows you at a glance to see what the areas of your document are, and kind of links you to it so you can go there quickly. But for a screen reader, it allows it it allows the tool to understand the structure of your document and is what makes it compatible with that technology. Now, if you do have a document that has that is longer and that you are using want to use the table of contents with, then you are wanting to make sure that you're creating your table of contents from the built-in features of Word. And if you have correctly assigned headings to your document, then the built-in feature will automatically create the table of contents for you. And just looking at the time, I'm not going to show this video, but just know that there's, again, my little demo of it and also a tutorial that I found online, and am recommending that if you need more information on creating table of contents or navigation, that you go there. And then last, in terms of how you need to set up your document, you also want to ensure that the information about your document is represented in the document properties is set correctly. And to do that, you would go to File, Info, Properties, Advanced Properties, which will open up a summary. And this is where you would enter at least your title, your author, company is something that is recommended to be added, keywords, and then obviously any other, as much information as you can put in here would be, is recommended, but at least title, author, title, subject, author, company, and possibly some keywords. And again, that just allows the document to be searchable. One thing when it's online, you know how when you do a search and sometimes you know, a Word document or a PDF is suggested to you, that is one of the benefits of having that information within your document properties, but also, again, for compatibility with other tools. Also, you want to make sure that in this Review tab, that you also check the language and make sure that it is set to the language of your document. If you have a document, a screen reader, you want to make sure that Word is telling the screen reader what language to read it in. And last but not least, in how you're ensuring that your document is set up correctly, we've already talked about viewing the navigation pane. In this review area, you can also check accessibility. So you can do this as you go and have, you know, if you're concerned about a particular area, you can check where you are and have it check it for you, or you can go to the File, Info, and access the accessibility checker there as well. And I'm going to go into a little more detail about the accessibility checker in a minute, but essentially, again, there's another example of me, you know, just doing a little demo on how to create the document properties. We don't have the time today to go into sort of this little activity here of looking at this report and having you just kind of at a glance see what might be wrong with it. If you do stay, we might be able to do that if you have the time to stay with us a little longer. But essentially, the last thing that you want to do is check for accessibility. One of the easiest ways to check if you've done your colors correctly is to view your document in grayscale. You know, print it out without you know, printed black and white, or view it in grayscale mode, and then you'll be able to see whether you really have added enough contrast with the colors. That is one way to check. Also, I do recommend that you try some of the built-in accessibility aids, and in a minute, in the next slide, I'll show you where those are. You want to kind of familiarize yourself with the read aloud function and the the keyboard functions, and just kind of just see what people who use assistive technology, what that looks like. It really will help you understand, oh, I hadn't thought about if I structure my document this way, that this is how the screen reader perceives it, or at least the read aloud feature perceives it. And it can be quite instructive. Obviously, you don't have to do this each time, but I do recommend that you try some of these out as as one of the ways that you can kind of double check to see that these features that some people might be using are compatible with the document that you've created. I keep showing you glimpses of this checklist, and it is part of the tools that have been provided for us by the U.S. Department of Education. Essentially, it includes an authoring guide, which looks like this. It goes through a lot of the issues that we talked about today and gives you the step-by-step instructions of how you actually can create the features that we talked about, how you can ensure that the features that we talked about are formatted correctly. And then there is the checklist itself that that I've been using as sort of my example document, because I know that it is formatted correctly. And this shows you sort of at the end of the day what your document needs to comply with. Again, it's been built with those standards, the WCAG 2.0, 2.1 guidelines. And it is one way that you can ensure, as you're kind of double checking your document right before you submit it, to make sure that everything is fine with it. There is an accessibility checker within Word itself, but it does not catch everything. So here in this slide, as I mentioned, there are the built-in under settings for both Windows and Apple computers. You can get to accessibility tools. So again, these are the features that are already baked into the systems to help people who either have a disability or just, again, for the ease of everyone, really, to adjust the display size, adjust the keyboard settings. And again, you'll see that really all of these accessibility features deal with the navigation or the text to voice or the color contrast. That's what these accessibility built-in features help with, for the most part.
Celia.
Yes?
Excuse me, I just wanted to share something that Lily just posted in the chat that I think is a really important point. She writes that to make sure, if you include images, be sure that your alt text includes considerations of inclusion that you would have taken in selecting your images. That's an excellent point. So if you have selected images of diverse human beings, make sure that you describe them, and that representation really matters for people with accessibility needs also.
Thank you. That is an excellent point. I appreciate you mentioning that. And again, the accessibility, the Microsoft Accessibility Checker is found in the info, inspect, check for issues, and here's the accessibility checker. And when you run it, it gives you errors, tips, and warnings. And it actually even shows you what you might want to, what you can do to fix it, why you should fix it, and why you might want to fix it. Now, this document doesn't have any issues, but this one has plenty because we created it as a bad example. And you'll see, oops, sorry. You'll see that it tells you what the error is. And if you click on it, it gives you recommended actions, and it takes you right to the place where the issue is found. And again, see, it tells you why to fix it and steps to fix it. Again, I just want to make sure that you are aware that it is not going to necessarily find everything. And some things that are found as warnings are just sort of a, hey, have you considered? Some warnings are things that you will need to address and fix. Some things are just, hey, for example, we want to make sure that if you've created a table, that it is tabbing across, if you intended it to tab across, or if you intended it to tab down and over. So it is going to just tell you, since it doesn't know your intention, the warning is going to read something like, check reading order, just to remind you to go check that. But that warning isn't something that you need to fix. It's just a reminder of something that you need to look at, because the AI behind Microsoft can't do that for you. And in exporting to PDF, again, when we have our part 2 in January, so, that's a plug for coming back and joining us then, we will go into some of the settings for PDF, but what you want to take away today is that if you have only Adobe Reader or even Adobe Acrobat Standard, those can't be used to make PDFs accessible. You have to use either Adobe Acrobat Pro or Common Look or similar software that is able to create them. And then the proper way to create them, again, there's a little video demo, but it is not to print in Adobe. This is not how you want to do it. If you have the Adobe the proper professional version, you'll have as part of your ribbon the ability to create a PDF. And when you do, the PDF itself within the tools actually also has an accessibility checker that once you've created your PDF, you'll want to run it through as well. And if it finds anything, it will let you know that needs to be addressed. There is in the resources here, it also includes an authoring guide and a checklist for PDFs as well. So that is, some additional information for you if you want to make sure that you have, if you are, creating something in Word and then exporting it to PDF, you will want to kind of be familiar with that checklist as well.
And Cecilia,
yes,
real quickly, I just want to share 2 resources that Seth shared out in the chat. He says you can also create accessible PDFs using Markdown and LaTeX, T lowercase e capital X.
perfect. Thank you. And I'm not sure how DaSy has their settings, but Renee, are people able to download the chat?
I can download the chat if no one else can.
Okay, we'll make sure that any of these resources, thank you so much, any of these tips and resources, I'll go back and put them into the notes or the slides into this PowerPoint so that you have that available for you. And then the last few slides are just, some additional resources, including specifically because so much of what we talked about today is about the screen readers. There's more information about what screen readers are and how they work, as well as the ability to download two of the most common screen readers for free, just to kind of, again, just to hear what it sounds like and be familiar with what the end product is going to look like and behave like. There's also an online simulator that, again, just kind of gives you that experience of what color blindness, what we're talking about, what those, what that looks like when you're experiencing it firsthand, and then some additional training as well. And finally, I know that this is a different way of doing things, and it can be scary and it can feel like it's a lot more work. But essentially, when we create documents in this manner, we are ensuring that everyone can access it. It's beneficial for all of us. I mean, if you think about some of the benefits that you get and resources that you've used that were technically designed for people with disabilities, such as ramps or the ability to use Control Plus on your keyboard to make things larger, or on your tablet or even on your computer, if you've ever used the dark mode at the end of the day because your eyes are really tired. We all benefit from introducing in our design from when we're creating these documents. If we think about designing with inclusivity as our goal, then we really are benefiting ourselves as well as people with disabilities. So it's not something extra that we're doing for those people. It is really ensuring that we are honoring everyone and meeting them where they are. Are there any questions? I know that we had intended for this to be an hour and then have you guys who wanted to spend a little extra time be able to stay with us. But I think I've used my allotted, close to my allotted 90 minutes. I thank you guys for sticking with it. We will have the handouts, the accessibility guide and checklist that I've been using throughout, as well as some of the other resources that DaSy has been kind enough to share with us. And an OSEP, as well as the PowerPoint itself. But are there any last minute questions before everyone leaves?
I see a question from Terry about, will these resources be emailed to us? And the resource, so the PowerPoint will be posted on the DaSy website, right, Renee?
Yes.
Yep. And then we have a question from Danielle. Does the accessibility come through if you save the file in Word as a PDF rather than print it?
So you actually have to create it as a PDF. Unless you have the paid version of Adobe Acrobat, it actually won't do that. It won't save it as an accessible PDF. However, you can create it as a PDF and then as a PDF, with whatever you have, and then open it in PDF and then try to remediate. You run your accessibility and it will tell you what didn't transfer in terms of accessibility, and you can try to do some remediation there. But we can address that in our January discussion when we go into a little more in depth of what are some of the issues, specific issues and concerns with some of these tools.
And that quickly, thank you, Cecilia, for reminding us of the part 2 coming up in January. If you have anything at the forefront of your mind right now that you would love to see in the January session, please put that in the chat right now. We really appreciate you being here. We are so thankful to get to be delivering the webinars with the team here, and we just want to make sure that we meet everybody's needs. So if you think of anything that you'd like to hear in January, just send us a note in the chat.
And I don't remember, I think I might be blocking it out when our webinar in January is, but
well, we do have January 19th.
Thank you.
A quick reminder that there will be an evaluation survey that everybody will receive. So please, please, please give us your feedback. We really want to hear how you experienced the webinar, and any other additional feedback and information or input you'd like to give us, because we all want to continually improve. So thank you.
And Eliza, you can use for OSEP, you can use the templates for ESEP and SPP APR reports, and it's only the additional supplements that they're requiring that, so that the templates are 508 compliant. If you are using any additional resources, you can send them in either as a Word document or a PDF, I believe. If anyone knows differently, please. Yes, Seth, the next session is going to focus more on sort of the overall accessibility and really digging more into what accessibility is all about. And then, kind of talking about what are the, from that grounding, what are the implications for some of the tools that we use, such as Excel, such as, like, what are some of the specific items that you might need to think about when you're using one tool versus the other. But it will be more grounded on, deepening our concept of an understanding of accessibility and 508 and WCAG. Today's was really more regarding the creation of actual documents so that you can have this information to prepare for the upcoming reports that you will need to be submitting to OSEP. And we just wanted to make sure that you had that information.
Eliza did just post a question about whether or not OSEP prefers Word versus PDF. I, off the top of my head, am not 100% sure. I would have to do a little bit of research to answer that question. So I'm definitely taking that one down. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming through in the chat. All right, well, I think we have officially come to the end of our presentation. Seth did just share out that in his experience, they prefer docs or CSV. Again, thank you all very, very much. We're very thankful for your time as well as your participation. We always love to get more information and resources that you shared out with us as well. And we really hope that we'll be able to see all of you again in January. So again, remember, the evaluation survey will be sent to you. Please give us your feedback. And thank you so much. Have an excellent rest of the day.
Thank you.